Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Paint With Me Live. My name is Brittany Lewis. I'm a professional artist and graphic designer, tarot deck enthusiast, and Sundays is the day that I work on my dream project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, and I'm really excited about today because we have quite a bit of work to do. We do. But before we get into what we're going to get into, do me one super huge favor. If you would like to support me in any way, shape, or form, the fastest, quickest, easiest, and freest way to do that is to hit the thumbs up button if you like this live stream. Hit the thumbs up button if you want other people to see this live stream because you enjoy it so much or whatever your reason is. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Hey, PL, it's so good to see you. Also, one of the ways that you can support me as an artist is by visiting my website, blewisarts.com. If you enjoy the art that I create and if you would like to own some of the art that I create, I do offer all kinds of goodies from t-shirts to canvas prints to books on my website, blewisarts.com. And all of that will be listed down in the description. So if you want to check that out, be sure to do that. And I look forward to getting your order. So without further ado, let's get into the Three of Cups. Now, it may look like not much has been done on this particular card over the week because the plan was to get into laying flats this week for the Three of Cups, but I've actually been doing quite a bit of work on the structure of the characters of this card. So this is where the three, or not where the three, this is where Clip Studio Paint, which is the program that we're working on, really shines. And I'll kind of show you a little bit about what I've been doing up to this point. And today we're going to work on giving our characters some costumes. We're going to finish up the sketch today. And then next week we'll do the flats. I had plans to do the flats this week, but life's the way it lifes. So next week we'll work on the flats. But I do want to show you this because this is one of the reasons I really absolutely love Clip Studio Paint. Within Clip Studio Paint, you have the ability to work with 3D models. So last week when we were working on the Three of Cups, I did a lot of the armature. So we did, I'll turn off some of this so that you guys can see it. We did the initial sketches for the Three of Cups so that we could kind of see the sort of stick figures, right? So we built our structure with our gesture drawing. We laid our heads down, kind of did some initial posing. But what has happened is I was able to take that information, and let's turn off some of what we've done so far so that you guys can see it. We took our initial information that we done, our stick figures, and I was able to drag it into a new file and create 3D models over what I'd already done, so that it'll kind of saves me a lot of time when it comes to posing my characters. Now these 3D models, this is how they look in version 1 of Clip Studio Paint, because that is the version that I use. In the newer versions of this program, they're even more detailed. I think they have like eyes, noses, more detailed ears and all of that. I didn't need that information. What I needed to know, or what I needed to do with this, was to pose my characters, right? So that I could get the proportions down as close as possible to what I was after. And then from there, I was able to translate that into a sketch, and that's what we're going to be working on today. But these characters are pretty cool. What they will do, and I'll turn off one to make sure I'm working on the same one. What this does is allows me to move the figure around however I wish to, move it around, right? So if I wanted to change the character in the background, just make sure I got the right thing selected. All right. So if I wanted to move her arm up and down, right, then I can move her arm, and then I can pose the characters, based on what part of the body that I move. And then I can take it and draw on top of it, or I can take it and use it as my reference point and see if it's going to work for me today. All right. There we go. So she'll move from side to side or up and down, different positions like that. And I can take this image and it becomes my reference, just like a photo reference, just like any other reference that I would use. If I was posing for these characters myself, it will work very much the same. But I get to work with these very similar to clay models, very similar to the wooden models that you will see in art school. Very, very similar concept. And I think that's one of the things that I absolutely love about Clip Studio Paint. It's just sort of being able to do that and then translate that into finished drawings, right? So here are our initial rough sketches, just as a reminder. And then what I'll do is go ahead and turn back on the information that we had already completed for these characters and turn off what I don't need, because some of this I don't need. So don't need that, right? All right. There we go. Alrighty. All right. So today we're just going to look at some of the references and things that I've picked out because we're pretty much designing the costumes around these characters. And I also need to give faces to two of them. I have started to work on the maiden character, which is the one with the tambourine over on our right hand side. I'll continue to work on her to kind of flesh out her costume. And then I'll work on the crone and the mother character. And finally, we'll have to kind of figure out what we want our main central character to be wearing. To me, this is one of probably the hardest things for me to do because fashion isn't really something I'm super duper interested in. So when it comes to doing costumes and things like that, I do lean heavily into references. In this case, because we're designing a scene that is a coming of age sort of ceremony, what I wanted to do with this is lean into some of the spiritual systems that are spread throughout the diaspora, right? And as well as other cultures. So I wanted to sort of pay homage to things like condombles, things like Santeria, voodoo, and things like that, so that we kind of get this feeling of community. We get this feeling of celebration. I wanted to get this feeling of festive, right? Even though these things are very closed systems, even though these things are very serious. So I don't want to point to any one particular system, but I do want to sort of remix and sort of take away things that I think will point to different things, right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But in the meantime, I do want to sort of lean into that. Now, one of the cards that I've done that sort of will act as a catalyst for creating the outfits for this is going to be the Queen of Wands, and I'll show you that. But before we do, I'll go through some of the references that we have. One of the things I do want to keep in mind with this is that I want it to be really colorful, right? Because again, we're not pointing to a specific religious system, but I do want to take away the sense of community, but I also want to lean into some of the colors, right? So when I was researching this and I was looking for references and things like that, a lot of the things that I saw across the board, no matter where the ceremony was taking place, no matter what culture was being highlighted, colors played a very huge deal. We're a pretty huge deal. So I want to lean into that, lean into making this a very colorful piece because so many of the pieces in the Cosmic Gateways Tarot are very dark, right? And this may very well still be a nighttime scene, but I do want to sort of lean into colors. So if we pay attention down to below my face, we have our reference panel. And in this reference panel, I'll kind of show you some of the references that I picked up for the costumes of our characters. Again, this is spread throughout quite a few religious systems from I think Puerto Rico, from Brazil, from Nigeria and West Africa, different places in West Africa. I did try to look into some things from East Africa, from Haiti, I was all over the place, right? Just wanted to sort of get an idea of what this would look like in this fictional space. And I wanted to, again, pay homage to some of the traditions throughout the world, right? All right. So here are some of the costumes and things that I took into consideration. And also, again, I wanted to lean into my Queen of Wands, which is a completed piece. I believe I finished this one in 2021. I believe 2021 or 2022. And I wanted to sort of highlight the colors because I love the colors of this piece. Is probably one of my most colorful pieces in the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So before we get into that, let's go through and have a little bit of a reminder of what the Cosmic Gateways Tarot looks like. Again, this is a project that I had started back in 2019. So we've been working on this for quite a while. Now, again, a lot of the cards are extremely dark, right? That's just sort of how I tend to work. I don't know why. Just what I was drawn to do when it came to creating this particular project. But I do have emphasis in some of the cards and want to balance out color as it pertains to, creating different scenarios and things like that. So this is the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. I do believe I have about 40, I think I calculated 35 cards complete. So I have about 43 cards left to draw. And so I'm very happy to have you guys here to, watch me do this. So without further ado, let's get into the costuming. Now, when it came to my maiden character, before we get into the maiden, one of the things that I did want to take into consideration was the ages of the two women who were dancing on our main character. Okay. So even though some part of me wants them to wear very similar outfits, I want them to sort of highlight the age and sort of stage in life that our different characters in, because we do have our maiden, we do have our mother, and we do have our crone type figure, right? So we have our big sister, our mother, and our grandmother. So as I am designing sort of the clothes, they will be similar and have similar aspects, but they will be slightly different based on the character that we're drawing. So where the maiden is a little more curvy and, just sort of showing off more of her curves, when we get to our grandmother figure, we'll sort of cover her up a little bit more. Now, she might be as feisty as my Queen of Wands is, and that's a great thing. So we might lean into that as well. So we'll see. We'll just kind of play around with it and go from there. Now, I have created a bit of a flounce top for my maiden. I will go ahead and continue with that. I'm not really sure yet if I want her to be in a long flowy skirt. I don't know if I want her to be in a short flowy skirt. I do want to emphasize the fact that she has these like ankle bells and ornaments. I do also want to emphasize the fact that she is, holding also the cup, not also the cup. She's holding the cup as well as the tambourine. And so we'll just play around with it. Again, clothes aren't necessarily my strong suit, but I do manage to do okay. I think with good reference, anything is sort of possible when it comes to creating anything, really. I know a lot of times we hear people who are not necessarily in the know when it comes to drawing and creating, and they have their feelings about using references, but references have been used since the dawn of time. What are we doing here? Usually from reality, right? Having models and live models is a way of using references when it comes to creating, your images. So there's absolutely no harm in using a good reference when it comes to, creating. So I do like to do that. So we're just going to lay in the shape right now. I do like that maybe there's a split in her skirt because we want to emphasize that she's youthful. She likes to show her a little leg. So we'll do something like this. And then with that, we're just going to keep this shape very simple, right? Because I do have a shirt for her already. So we're not necessarily too concerned with her top. And I'll give them probably all a similar style top. Maybe the skirts, maybe the bottoms are different, right? And we're just laying in super duper loose lines. So I hope the audio is coming in okay. I did see just a moment ago where I was having a few connection issues, but we'll try to do our best to get through it. Something like this. And if I want to go back to my reference of the Queen of Wands, I'll do sort of borrow some of the folds in her outfit, right? Just to kind of get an idea of how the fabric might fold on our maiden's body. Okay, so something like this. Now with this, because we have her in a skirt, we're not necessarily going to see her legs, but we may see the indication of where her legs are, something like that. And then what I'll do is I will duplicate the layer, a base layer here, and then we're going to add a mask to that. And a mask just allows me to take away and add things without permanently doing so. And so I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm doing this because I want to, because I don't want to mess up my original layer. But I am going to add mask to the title. I'm going to turn off that old one, and then I'm going to turn on the mask layer here. And then we're just going to erase, right? And if I decide that maybe I want to change her outfit, maybe I want to see a little bit more of her body, then what I would do is go into B for brush, and I can just paint that back in. So it's very subtle because I have the opacity down, but hopefully you guys can see where sort of her legs are being drawn back in, right? Now, if this were sheer, and this may very well be sheer, I don't know, we may be able to keep some of that in. So I'm just going to lightly dust some of this off, right? So something like this. And then from there, what I'll do is go ahead and finish outlining. Just going to trace over her, the rest of her body. We've already sort of drawn in, but we're going to make it a little tighter. I'm going to go back to my made an outline, and I want to get rid of the parts that I don't need. So she's holding on to a tambourine. I don't really need to see the other side of her hand, right? And again, this mask allows me to take away, but I can always draw back in without having to like redraw the whole thing. And then I, sort of give myself a safety net by duplicating the layer, right? All right. I'm going to add her thumb back in, and we might give her some nails or something like that a little bit later. But for now, that'll do. And then we're just going to go back over it. Just to sort of outline what we want and tighten it up just a bit. And of course, we can add accessories and things like that. So this is really the fun part. Even though for me, figuring out what my characters are going to wear is a little bit of a challenge. Sometimes I had an idea like what we had with the 3 of wands, not 3 wands, yeah, 3 wands, because we already had the character established. I pretty much knew what she was going to wear and drawn it enough time to be able to like, draw it in my sleep. But when it comes to like creating new characters, men and women, I do sometimes struggle with figuring out what I want them to wear, and I have a little bit of analysis paralysis when it comes to it, right? So many options, but what helps when I experience things like that is to sort of put them in the scenario, right? So like, what exactly are they doing? And from there, we can kind of create what it is that I want them to wear. And since this is sort of an Afrofuturistic, sort of very fictional space, I can, add and take away and create new looks, right? It doesn't necessarily have to point to modern day jeans and t-shirts. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like, they don't have to be in ball gowns or anything like that. I can take elements like we have, or like we're doing with the different religious ceremonies and the different festivals, things like that. We can kind of take stuff and make something that is our own, right? Which I think kind of feeds into the backstory with a lot of those religious systems, right? Because a lot of them came over to the West through the Atlantic slave trade. So we continue that tradition or something like it in the Cosmic Gateways Tarot by using the information that we gather from the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot deck. And then we make something of our own, right? We make something that we can connect to. We make something that speaks to actual experiences, but in a fictional space. And so I think that's one of the beauties of creating a project of your own, right? Because there are lots of options. There are thousands of decks in circulation. But for me, it was something that I was having a really hard time finding, like Brittany, you know what I mean? Finding Brittany in the deck. And I don't believe that I am so special that only I want to see certain things. I just think that it hadn't gotten to that point in the market yet. So I decided to make my own deck. And with this, it allows me to be a visual storyteller, right? Get to create these many stories and many scenes, get to experiment and have a good time doing so. I get to make mistakes in front of you guys and have to sort of get over my own personal fears and setbacks when it comes to making mistakes or being wrong or, doing something that I may not like initially. And, I get to do that and get over it, right? Get over that stage. So if there is something that you want to do, right, if there's something that you want to see in the marketplace, a lot of times you have to be the one to do it. And to go with that, a lot of times you're not going to know anyone else that is doing the same thing, but you sort of have to bet on yourself, right? You have to take that leap of faith, and you have to be okay with making mistakes. And this is a conversation I was having recently where, as you get older, it's harder to take risks on things because you're getting older, right? You have to sort of plan for the future. You have responsibilities. Life is a little more serious, or at least it feels a little more serious. And so when it comes down to sort of leaning into your dreams, it's very scary, right? Because what if you fail? What if you put, like, I've been working on this for at least 6 years this November. I've been working on this for 6 years in November. What if 6 years I do all of this work and it doesn't work out the way that I want it to work out, right? You have to be okay with that possibility. but also be open to the possibility of it going exactly the way you have it planned, right? It's a 50-50 chance. So you just show up, you be consistent, you do your best, and you move on. You don't worry about it. So that's what I've been doing. I hope that I'm inspiring you guys to do the same thing. It doesn't really matter how old you are. This is my last year in my 30s. I'll be 39 this July. And so it gets scary. Right? The older you get, it just gets scary. But, you have to kind of just go with it, right? Don't allow fear to dictate how far you go in life, what things you experience, what things you try, none of that, right? All right. So I got my first person, I think, mostly done. I think she's done to my satisfaction for now, right? I may add some, wrestle down to her outfit. What I would like to do is sort of use her as a blueprint to create my next character, right? So what we're going to do is work on the mother character. I'm not going to do her face just yet. I actually only do her face off of live. I'm not really sure. Today's focus is going to be on doing their costumes. And that went by fairly quickly, a lot faster than I thought it was going to. So we're going to go ahead and try it over here on the mother. I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know how well this is going to look, but it'll be a little bit of fun to translate what I've done on one character over to the other and make it a little bit different because we're at a different angle, right? All right, so now if we're using this costume as a blueprint, and it looks like her flounce is probably going to start something like this, right? So you're only going to see a little bit of it. And you may even see the ruffles do something like this. Something like this, where it's going to show up as if it's hugging her body a little bit more than with our maiden, only because we're looking at it from a slightly different angle. Now, she's a mother, so she's a cool mom, so she might have the tank going on, tank top. Her flounce hugs her arm like this, right? And then she has the sleeve like so. Maybe we give the sleeve a little more ruffle. Like so. And then just to emphasize the ruffles, we'll add our lines like this. Right? And so the back side, I'm going to hug her a bit, but it's got a little bit of a peplum look to it. Maybe I do know a little bit about fashion. I don't know. Only because I sew a little bit. So I know a little bit of something, right? But we have her peplum like that. So far we have her top. We can go ahead and emphasize her arm. Tighten it up a little bit. Like so. And I think for her, I have our maiden character holding a tambourine. I think I want our mother to hold like a smudge stick or something like that. So we'll kind of throw that in. Smudge sticks kind of look like braids a little bit. Something like this. Because our young woman is sort of going through this coming of age ceremony, and we want to make sure that they have her cleansed and cleared as they dance around her. And I might even make this, because it doesn't seem to fit her hand, I might make this a little bit wider, right? So maybe it's a giant mud stick. We're going to bring this down a little bit. Take away what we don't need. And we'll clean it up and make it look a little bit better. But for now, I think that's pretty good. Like something like that. All right, so we have our top pretty much in. And it has 2 layers. So let's add, I'm going to add underneath. Let's add layer underneath. Same thing. Clean this up a little bit. And so this is where it becomes pretty fun, I gotta say. Just sort of using our 3D models as a reference and then drawing on top of, or drawing sort of the rest of the, the picture on. All right, so now here's where we're going to have a little bit of what to do. All right. So she's wearing a skirt. Let's follow the flow of her leg, right? So let's say she's wearing a skirt. It's a little flowy. She's dancing. I want to add some movement, like so. Something like that. So it was easy enough. I do want to emphasize the fact that her leg is there. So for her, I'm going to take her outline, and I'm also going to duplicate it because again, we're going to add a mask to it so that I can kind of take out parts that I don't necessarily need as I draw on top of her. So we really don't, unless I make these sheer. Now I still could do that, right? These still could be somewhat see-through dresses, but for the moment, we don't really need this information. Now, I love a mask again because just as I've taken that away, if I decide, you know what, I don't know that I want to take that away, what I would do is I will go into a brush, any old brush will do, and I'll just paint back over it while I have the mask selected, and it all sort of comes back just like that, right? So that might be helpful for you guys who are learning to do digital work. Masks are your friends, especially when you're not sure about what direction you want to go in when it comes to creating, different parts. So I'm going to lightly erase this just so I can kind of still see a little bit of it. I do like this particular skirt on her. I'm going to go back to my clothes layer. I'm going to pick back up my digital brush, and we're just going to add some folds and things like that into her dress, keeping in mind where her legs and things are, how this may fold like this, but I'm also using again my Queen of Wands as sort of my cloth reference because I spent a lot of time developing the folds and things like that in her cloth. And maybe with her skirt, she has a little bit of a waistband. Oh, let's do it this way. So welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. I see our numbers are going up just a little bit. I'm so happy to have you here on this Sunday afternoon. Whether you're watching this live or the replay, I hope that you are enjoying it. Watch me sort of fiddle around and play around with this thing as I figure out what it is that I want to do. I kind of, now that I'm looking at my Queen of Wands, I wonder, let's see. Because what I could do, we could be a little flirty about this. Let's show a little leg, right? Maybe there's a split in her skirt. So I'm going to go back to my mask and I'm going to paint her legs back in, right? Just so I can kind of see where they are in relation to where this split in her skirt might be. All right, so let's say she has a split something like here, right? Yeah, something like that. So you do see a little more of her leg. I don't know if I like that. I do not. So we take it out. Let's go back to what we had for now. And we'll play with it a little bit later. Okay, so that kind of narrows down our mother figure. I am going to again add the sort of the ankle bells. And I'm not going to draw anything super fancy in that regard for right now. I might come back and tighten this up so they actually look like bells so that when I come to color it, it'll be easy for me to not have to figure out what part is the bell and what part has the hole and all of that. But for right now, we'll just add the indication of that in her costume. And I might come back to her face. We'll come back to her face a bit later. Let's go ahead and set up our grandmother figure. All right. So in my layer panel, it's going to be off to the right hand side of the screen. I'm going to click on Chrome, which is her outline in the background. And I'm just going to, looks like I already have a mask first, so that's very helpful. And I did that because I draw her in. Now, when I drew these in, again, I was sort of using the 3D model, and I'll show you guys what this looks like here. Use the 3D model from Clip Studio Paint to create poses, right? And so when I want to draw, of course, you still had information behind our main figure. So I just created a mask to mask that off so that we don't see it, right? All right, so back to our Chrome. I'm going to put a layer on top of her so that I can draw her clothes over top. I'm going to label it Chrome Clothes. And you know what? I have an idea for her. All right, so let's get her clothes in. So we're gonna pretty much duplicate the same sort of outfit, except with hers. I think I want to just be a little more conservative. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit. Right? So we might have hers sort of do something like this, right? And we want to add movement, right? So we want these lines to be extremely loose. In this case, I think I'm going to go over to this lady. I'm going to use a little bit of what she has going on as my reference. Right? We're going to keep it, again, very, very loose. It doesn't have to be super detailed right now. She does seem to have a little bit of a collar, and I think I did that really well over our Queen of Wands, around the lace, sort of around her top, like that. I'm going to do something very similar here, so that she has sort of this lace look, because she is the matriarch, right? So she's sort of leading this festival, leading this ceremony, and I do, because even though she's older, she can still have a little razzle dazzle, right? She don't have to be super covered up, but I'm actually going to use more elements from our Queen of Wands in her costume, again, because she's the matriarch of this sisterhood, right? Or this womanhood ceremony. What I want to do. There we go. So we'll borrow elements there. And maybe he has some of the same sleeves, right? Right? Right. And then in terms of her dress, let's see. We'll meet her at the waistline here. And we're not really worrying about it crossing over into the other characters, because I can always, erase what I don't need. Something like this. And we'll add lines where her legs are. We know that there's a body underneath this big old dress. Right? Something like this. I like that. All right. Then with her, maybe she has on these beads as well. Just adding indications, nothing super duper detailed at the moment, but we do want to keep things relatively loose. All right, so it's going to auto save really quickly. So for those of you who are just joining us, I'll show you a little bit more of what the Cosmic Gateway Tarot is. Again, we're at, I think this is 36 card. So we still have about 42 left to draw. So there's still quite a lot of work to do. I do appreciate these Sundays because they make me actually sit down and work on it, even when I don't feel like coming live. Sometimes I don't. So I'm glad to have you guys here, because it definitely gives me a little bit of boost in continuing to share the process of creating this. And this part is usually pretty fun, creating the costume. So this is the Cosmic Gateways Tarot so far. But yeah, creating the costumes and sort of gathering references and sort of fleshing out the story that our characters are sort of experiencing is always a lot of fun to do. And I do surprise myself. Like I was sort of nervous to do this part live, because again, I don't necessarily I'm not fashion in terms of creating costumes from characters isn't always easy for me to do. And so having a reference, and luckily because I've already done 35 cards, it's a little bit easier to draw upon the work I've already done. But I was a little bit nervous and hesitant to do this because I wasn't sure how easy it was gonna be. I was like, I don't know how many mistakes I'm gonna make, but again, we're just really drawing shapes at this point, right? I do want to, I'm not sure if I'll share that part live. I will flesh this out even further, so that when it is time for me to come in and sort of draw the fold wrinkles just like I have in my Queen of Wands, then that process is a lot easier to handle, right? So for instance, in the Chrome character's costume here, she might have quite a bit of, ruffles and folds and things like that. So we'll go ahead and add some of that in. I don't know how I like how that's looking. So what I might do is just sort of add indications of, right? So we'll do it relatively lightly. And again, we're just sort of following the curves of the bodies, right? So that helps out a whole lot. All right. So now to the faces. Again, this is something that I so hesitate to do on live, I should say. We'll go ahead and get some of that knocked out. As soon as I take out parts that we really don't need because they're covered up in clothes, right? So we don't need to see her arm line. We really don't need to see her hip, but we'll use some of this information in sort of the lines of her clothes. Actually, you know what? Go back. And these could be see-through dresses. They could be. We'll see. All right. Let's work on our Chrome face. I think hers will be the easiest to deal with. And then we will see where we go from there. All right. So, you know what we do? I want to make, we're going to keep going. I was going to say, I want to make a few adjustments to the maiden's face, but I think for now, let's just get this done, and then we will see where we go from there. All right. So, in terms of hair, I'll tighten up. In terms of hair, I kind of want her. So, my granny has like a short afro, right? And I want this lady to have a short afro as well. So, this is for you, Granny. So, I want to make sure that she is modeled after, and also our high priestess of this card, of this deck, has a short afro. So I want to sort of lean into that. I think as I get older and when I become an elder, I probably have my hair very, very similar, because I remember when I did my big chop back in 2005, the afro, the short one, man, was so easy to maintain. So I can see me as an older lady having super easy to maintain hair, because who got time for what it takes to keep your hair up, right? All right. So her nose will sort of come like this. So we'll add the shadow, because I find that when I do that, it sort of helps me build noses out relatively easily. Right? And I think we want her to have kind eyes. So I want to make them round, right? Now, here's a trick that you can do if you have trouble drawing two eyes, right? Two of the exact same eyes. One of the beautiful things about digital art is that you could literally just copy and paste this. I'm going to attempt to draw this the same, right? And I may have to move it over because it looks like we have quite a bit of space between her eyes, too much space. But if I were not sure about how I wanted to, if I could draw two of the same eyes, and what I would do is just sort of copy and paste. But we want to get them close, pretty close, right? One of the tricks that you can also do is to think of the eye as a sphere, right? So you do have an eyeball, and go something like this, right? Have an eyeball, and then from there you'll sort of cut in the lid, something like this. And having these eye lines will keep everything sort of in line. And then you can tighten it up just a bit. So I'm going to get rid of some of this information because it's too much. And sort of something like this. It doesn't have to be super fancy right now. But I do want to keep in mind that her brow sort of does this, right? And then, let's see. zoom out just a bit so that I can see where our little girl character is. She's down. So I kind of do I want her to be looking down? Maybe. If I do that, then we will close her eye just a little bit. I don't know if I want her to be looking down or out. So we'll try it both ways, right? All right. So if I wanted her to be looking down, what I would do is I would position sort of the iris like this, and I would lower her lid, right? So we would kind of get rid of some of this information here. You just duplicate that over here. So maybe her attention is more so on the little girl than it is on looking out. Something like this, maybe. I don't know. But she's an elder, so she may have creases and wrinkles and things like that. We just want her to be joyous as well. We're just going to put her smile line in. And I want Meemaw to have a full smile. Right? Sort of add some wrinkle lines like such. And maybe her face isn't quite as round because she's older. Something like this. She might have smile lines. And she's a plus size woman, so we can add a little juice to her face. A little love to it. Something like this. I do want to keep in mind her age. And do something like such. Now zoom out. I may not like how this eyes is coming along, but one of the beautiful things again of digital art is that I can select this and work on it by itself. I don't know if it's the size. Maybe. I'm going to look at the screen that you guys can see because I can have just a little bit of a removed view from it. And maybe we deselect that and clean it up a bit. And in Clip Studio, one of the quickest and easiest ways to resize your brushes is to hit the bracket key. So if you hear, I don't know how clear the audio is, but if you guys hear sort of tapping, that's me tapping on the keyboard as we sort of add information. And maybe she has a few wrinkles in her forehead or something like that. And then because she likes a good ear bob. She likes a good earring. As do I. I'll add some earrings. Some information like so. And we have our grandmother character. All right. Quick and easy. All right. Now, the more challenging view is going to be the profile view. For me, sometimes I'm going to approach it pretty similar. The same where we started with the shadow of our granny's. And you know what? She's me, right? So she's going to give her a nose ring too. Because why not? All right, but just how we did with the with her face, where we started with the shadow in her nose, we're going to do the same thing here with our mother's details, and see how it goes. Now, profiles, I can do a pretty good profile. I've done quite a few. I would say they can be challenging though. Right? They can be a little bit challenging. I did add my nose line when I was creating sort of the outline shape of this. The challenge comes in with, for me, the mouth, right? I don't know why. We'll see if we can knock that out. Because see, I don't like how that looks. It's usually the proportions of the face that throw me off when it comes to doing profiles. I can finagle it, right? I can make it do what it do. But it might take me a minute, and you guys are gonna get this privilege, I guess, I don't know, to get to see me sort of work my way through How the heck does the nose look? And here's the beautiful thing about this. Now, if I'm having trouble because I don't want to sit here and do this with y'all watching, what I'll do is I'll go to an app called Handy that I have on my phone, right? I like Handy. Handy looks a little something like this. I hope you guys can see it. If it'll zoom in, I'm not sure if it will. But the way Handy works is, let me see if I can readjust. There we go. The way Handy works is I can pick heads, I can pick feet, I can pick hands, and I can pose them, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a head. In this case, so we have options. Let's see if it'll focus again. Let's see. Will they focus for me? There we go. All right. So in this, I have female head. I have a melanated female head. I have same with the males, and I have elderly as well. So if I needed like an older person to pose for my crone character, I can pick that. I'm going to pick the female head. The reason is because the features are a little bit broader, right? So it'll be easier for me to model this. And what I'll do is move her to the side, just like that, and I will tilt her down just like so. And that's going to help me draw this face. All right. So I'm going to be, as a matter of fact, I have it backwards. So I'm going to flip it. So I flipped it so she's facing the other way. Right. And so what I'll do is use this as a model to draw this face. All right. So that is one of my cheat codes, if you will, especially for this particular angle, because it is a challenge for me. I don't know why it is. But it is. It does take me a little bit of time to get it to a satisfactory place. And so that's sort of what we're doing now. When I am using Handy, I'm not looking to draw the exact character that is posed. Like I'm not looking to draw this particular person. I'm just using the placement of her features, right? So for me, I had like the nose way too big initially there. So that was unnecessary of me, right? Didn't have to do that. I can shape her nose however I wish to shape it. So if I want it to be, like have a rounder bridge, I can do that. Sort of up to me. I'm just really paying attention to the placements, right? And because I'm holding my phone by the mic, there may be a little bit of interference. But for now, this is sort of where we are, right? And so her eye isn't necessarily, let's see her brows like this, right? And again, this ain't gonna be pretty for now. I'll clean her up a little bit later. So if we were to take the same stance with her eye is going to be placed something like this. Forehead does a little something like that. Something like this. And then because we are looking sort of at the side of her eye, it's not going to be quite as sort of oval like we have with our grandmother figure, right? It's going to be cut a little bit more triangular. And then once I lay these down, I can kind of move them around and get them to looking a little bit better, looking sort of more like what I would want to draw. She's not a looker right now, right? But we'll get her right in just a second. Just want to pay attention to placement right now. All right. And with her hair, I don't know what I want to do. Sort of had the idea of giving my maiden locks as a homage to the locks that I had when I was a maiden. Yes, technically I would still be not an old woman yet, but I did have locks for several years. And when it was time for me to create Justice, I actually paid homage to those locks because at the time that I created Justice, that was the time that I got the name for the deck. It was also a time that I was going through like a serious sort of evolution of growth, right? And so that was the time that I had actually decided to cut off my locks. As hair holds energy, and it was time to let some facets of life go. And thus began the journey of understanding the Cosmic Gateways Tarot and allowing myself to be inspired and guided to create this deck. All right, something like this. All right, that's good enough for now. What I'm going to do is put Handy down and I'm going to zoom out just a bit and we're going to fix this up because right now I don't really care for really like what's going on with her face. So I'm going to go to my mask in my mother character layer. And I'm going to erase some of these extra excess lines so that I can sort of draw on top of them. She's not looking too bad, but we're going to work on her a little bit more. As we have our grandmother, we have our big sister, we have our mother. So something like this will sort of draw in these. And you know what? Maybe because she's celebrating too, maybe we have her mouth open. Am I adding an extra challenge for myself? Just a little bit. And that'll bring her down like so. And we'll see teeth. And maybe we won't see. Maybe her mouth is open. Something like this. And maybe we will see a little teeth. I don't like that at all. Let's go back to mouth closed. Let's make life easy for me. And I'm just hitting undo, which is Control or Command Z, depending on if you're working on a Mac or a Windows computer. We can have it a little bit open, not a whole lot. We don't need too much going on. All right. Now her eye. Let's fix this eye. It's a little weird. Something like this. And then what I want to do is kind of bring her nose out a bit. Maybe not bring it out. Let's reshape it. Something like this. Something like that. I don't know. We'll see. And again, I'll work on this some more after live. So if you are watching this live with me, if you're here with me, and if you're watching the replay, I really appreciate you for being here. I feel a little exposed because this isn't looking quite like I would like for it to, but we'll get it there in due time. Again, a lot of the time is just a matter of sort of playing and allowing yourself to make happy accidents as you create new pieces. We want to keep in mind the shape of her brow, right? So her brow is going to have a certain shape, like so. And then you may not, I don't know. Her eye is weird. There we go. All right. Let's maybe give her some hair. Maybe that'll help a little bit. All right, hairstyles. Now I did say locks. Should I do locks? Maybe we give her a hair wrap. So what that look like? Something like so. Pretty much a big box. Right? Hey. Okay, so it says, I heard that if you position, I'm sorry, is ASVAB Wizard says, I heard that if I heard a tip to position the mouth correctly, usually the corners of the lips line up vertically with the pupils. Very good tip. And also, you said that I think it looks lovely. I was amazed how quickly you can make a side profile. I really appreciate that. I definitely am comfortable with making mistakes. I'll say that. I'll say that. It's easier when you have sort of a reference because, of course, I'm just drawing what I'm seeing based on the reference. But when you're sort of making it up as you go or allowing the face to sort of reveal itself, it's a little nerve wracking. I ain't gonna lie. It is. It is a little nerve wracking. But, we just kind of allow for happy accidents. But I'll definitely, you Said the corner of the mouth with the pupil. That works. Yeah, okay. It checks out. All right. So yeah, I think we're gonna do something like this for now. I don't know. Maybe with her. Because when I had locks, when I would wear my hair in these big old head wraps, what I would do is I would actually have my locks sort of peeking through. So maybe we explore that a little bit. Okay. So maybe we make this just a little bit shorter. Kind of lessen the boxiness of it. Something like this. And we're just laying down lines. So with head wraps, they tend not to have any particular rhyme or reason, unless it's like I think is it called a gale? I believe it's called, when it is done in a particular pattern. But in this case, we're just sort of going with the flow of it. I don't like that. So if I had locks, they would sort of come out like this, right? Something like this. Since she's dancing, we can add a lot of movement into her hair. Maybe not like that. We can add quite a bit of movement to her like this. And I want to add, since she is older, I do want to add a few sort of indicate that she has somewhat high cheekbones. Like so. All right. And then we'll clean this up a little bit more in her face. Oh, there we are. I gotta find. So one of the things that happens in digital art is sometimes you can have something on the layer, you have no idea what that thing is. I'm sort of experiencing that now. So there is a line, and I'll show you where the line is and what I'm trying to find. This line right here, where'd it go? This one? I'm trying to figure out what layer it's on. All right. So what I'm going to do is sort of turn off and on the different layers. And this could be on one not even associated with this particular character. So we're going to see. I'm just turning them on and off so that, where'd it go? I just saw it disappear. Where'd it go? Yep. Okay. Goodness gracious alive. All right, there it is. It was on a completely different layer. So let's get rid of it. All right, goodness. That happens. And when it does, you just manually, like I did, go through and turn on and off your layers until you find where it is. All right, so we'll do that. And then I'm going to go back to Handy because I want to see the shape of an ear. And again, Handy is the app that I am using on my phone that allows me to sort of move faces around in shapes. I have her pose pretty similar to what I'm drawing. I just, again, need to know like placement and how ears look. And we'll use that as a jumping off point. Right now, what I would like to do is go into her outline because I have quite a bit more information than I need here. Right? And I want to go into wherever this is. There we go. And then we're going to sort of draw this in. Now, I could actually have her head wrap cover her ears so that maybe we only see the bottom part like that. So I don't have to draw so much information in like so. And again, we'll probably give her some earrings. So we'll do something like this. And maybe it has a jewel or something at the end like so. All right, so we'll just tighten this up a bit now. What we're gonna do is make this just a little bit darker. Maybe she has a lock that kind of peeks through the bottom here. And because we have hair in this space, we don't really need to see her arm so much, right? And actually, I have this particular side profile. I actually know where I can get a reference for it. So I'll show you how, again, I use references. So we've been looking at the Queen of Wands, which is right below me, a lot for the clothing reference. And she has a hair wrap on too, which is very helpful. But I do have this particular angle in the Lover's card. So what I'm going to do is pull that up so that you guys can see it, and I can also see it myself and use it to draw in this head wrap. And I'll open up the sketch so you guys can see the sketch of it as well. And then we do still have to put clothes on our main little girl. So we'll do that, and I think we'll call it a live stream. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Again, if you are and would like to see more, please consider hitting a thumbs up. And if you would like to see me go live more often, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you're watching this live or the replay, did it open? No, I'm opening the wrong thing. If you would like to see more, please hit the subscribe button. It helps. That helps a whole lot. And I do appreciate you all for being here. I love comments like ASVAB. I'm hoping, is it ASVAB or ASVAB? I don't know, but I hope I said that right. But I really, really appreciate that tip that you gave, because I will for sure put it into practice, put it into experimentation. So I am looking for the Lovers. So we're going to go with sketch. Lovers, and I'm going to pull up the sketch itself because I've already drawn this in, and we're just going to redraw the same shape. See? And this is the sketch for it. So this is sort of, and I guess I've done this already, but sort of what she has going on where her hair is sort of spilling out of her head wrap. That is what we have, or the idea I have in mind for this particular character. So we'll sort of lower this a bit, and I'm just going to use this as my reference, right? And this card was completed in 2020, I believe. So this was one of the first, I would say, maybe the first 10 cards that I had done was the Lovers. Not really sure what number it was, but it was one that I really, really enjoyed, and it was inspired by a meditation that I had done. And it was a lot of fun to be able to illustrate or sort of recreate that experience through illustration. And that was a lot of fun. It was. And it was very, I would say, very intimate, because it was a very personal experience. But to be able to share stuff like that is sort of why I enjoy, or why I have leaned so heavily into making this an introspective work of art, because it is a way that I get to express myself, where I may not tell you all my business, but we'll put it in some artwork, right? And I know that other people have had similar experiences as well. All right, so that looks good. So what I'm going to do is sort of tighten up her hands. Really don't have to, because she's showing up pretty well. All righty, and now we have our final central figure, who is our guest of honor at this ceremony, as she is coming of age around her mother and her big sister and her grandmother. I have an idea of what I want to do for her. In terms of her costume, I have to find where she is. Is it you? Yep. All right. So what I'm going to do, and I'm not even going to rely, normally I would sort of rely a little bit on the symmetry ruler, but not so much here. I want to, I don't know why, but I see her in these sort of straw sleeves, right? So it's like when I illustrate them, it'll be like points, right? But it'll stick up something like this. And rather than me having to draw this twice, I'll draw it once and then duplicate. So I want her to have something very special on, right? So where everyone's very flowy, I want her outfit to be a little more rigid, right? Because this is serious for her. Oh, what am I doing? I'm just going to duplicate that. I'm going to go up here to edit, and I'm going to flip horizontal. That way I don't have to draw it twice. Something like this. And we can shape it to her body because her body's not necessarily symmetrical. I didn't want her to feel um, too rigid, but something like that, right? All right. And then with her, we can still sort of have the flounces and things like that, but you're not really going to see a whole lot of her body because she's sort of in this dress, and we're auto saving. So one of the features I love again about Clip Studio is the fact that it auto saves. Now, if you've worked in digital or in any kind of computer program, that bad boy will crash on you in a heartbeat, and that is never fun. So to have the feature to auto save saves a whole bunch of time. Now she is kneeling, so we want her dress to sort of pull around her a bit, like so. And it doesn't again have to be super symmetrical. And this also is a water card, so we kind of do want to feel like a little bit feel a little bit of flow, right? Now again, because we are not going to see too much of her actual body, I'm going to create another mask, and I'm going to take out the parts that I don't necessarily need. Now we'll probably need some indication that she's underneath here, but we don't need anything super serious. We'll merge these two layers here. And I actually kind of like the way that this is fitting at the top. We don't need her belly button though, so we're going to take that out like so. And she's pretty easy, right? She's sort of kneeling and she is taking in this ceremony. And I think once we finish with her dress, I think we're going to call it a stream. So we're doing something like this. And maybe she has rather than having on the ankle bells, maybe she has on a series of bracelets and some necklaces, things like that. So she's heavily ornamented, right? Because this is her coming of this is her big moment, right? This is her coming of age ceremony, like so. So we're just going to add some indications, and then because this is relatively simple, we don't necessarily have to draw the shapes of the bracelets that she's wearing or anything like that. We can just paint those in. Those are relatively easy to paint in. So something like this. And then because she also has her braids, we don't want this part covered too much. I'm going to emphasize the fact that she has braids here. All right, I think we're gonna call it. All right, so this is our 3 of Cups so far. So this week I did have the intention of doing flats and having all of this done, but thank you so much for riding with me on this as we finished up the sketch for the 3 of Cups. Next week, what we're going to do is lay down the flats. So rather than work on this particular card through the week, I will take you through the entire process because we've already done thumbnailing, we've done the sketching, and now we've done the preliminary sketching, and now we're tightening things up. So next week I will show you guys how I do flats for all of my digital illustrations. And flats are really, really important to me because that eliminates a lot of the sort of detail and figuring out colors. I can do all of that in that stage. And then from there, it's just a matter of adding details. So please join me next week as we do that. And then throughout the week, what I think I'm going to do is get a jump start on the next card, right? We'll go ahead and get that sketch done. That way, when this one is completed, we can get right into it. It'll probably be the 3 of Swords and get to that. So whether you're watching this live or the replay, I really appreciate you for being there. Hey, Black Zetsu, I'm sure happy to see you. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you for joining me here, and I hope to see you next week. So let me know in the comments below if there's something that you'd like for me to explore with any of the cards. I don't mind. I love getting suggestions. I love getting tips. So thank you so much, ASVAB Wizard. Shout out to you. Shout out to Black Zetsu and PL for stopping by in the chat. I really appreciate you. So until next time, we'll see you next Sunday, same time, same place. Peace.